again. Once more the Iron Man stretched himself out on the grid of the raging furnace. The Space Bat Angel Dragon watched in horror. He knew what this meant for him. He would have to go once more into the sun's flames, and now the Iron Man's hair and toes and elbows were red hot. He lay back in the flames, smiling up at the dragon, and his whole body was becoming red hot, then orange, and finally white like the blazing wire inside an electric bulb. At this point, the Iron Man was terribly afraid. For what would happen if the flames went on getting fiercer and fiercer? He would melt. He would melt and drip into the flames like so much treacle, and that would be the end of him. So even though he grinned up at the dragon as though he were enjoying the flames, he was not enjoying them at all, and he was very, very frightened. Even the engineers, who were hiding behind thick asbestos screens over a mile away along the beach, felt the hair singeing on their heads, and they too thought it was the end of the Iron Man. Perhaps they had poured in just a bit too much fuel oil. But at that very moment, and the very second that the edge of the Iron Man's ear started to melt, the fuel was used up and the flames died. The engineers came running down the beach. They saw the red-hot Iron Man getting off his fearful fuel bed, and they saw him moving to and fro on the sand, cooling off. At last the Iron Man looked up at the dragon. He could hardly speak after his ordeal in the flames. Instead, he simply pointed towards the sun and jabbed his finger towards the sun as he gazed up at the monster. "That's twice," he managed to say. "Now it's your turn." The monster did not laugh. He set off up from the earth, beating his colossal wings, writhing his long, ponderous body up into the sky towards the sun. Now it was his turn, and he did not laugh. Last time he had been too dreadful, but he went. Last time had been so dreadful, but he went. He couldn't let the Iron Man win. He couldn't let the Iron Man of the earth beat him in this terrible contest. And so all the telescopes and cameras of the world watched him fly into the sun. They saw him land among the flames as before. As before, they saw his great ragged shape like an ink blot sprawled over the centre of the sun. They saw him begin to glow red, then orange. And at last, they could no longer see him. He and the sun were one blinding whiteness. He had done it again. But was the sun burning him up? Had he melted in the sun? Where was he? No. Here he was, here he came, slowly, slowly down through space, much more slowly than before. His white, hot, flying body cooled slowly to red as he came, and as he grew larger, coming nearer, he finally became once more black, and the great black shape flagged its way down through space until, bump! Heavier than ever, he landed on Australia. This time the bump was so heavy it knocked down certain skyscrapers, sent tidal waves sweeping into harbours and threw herds of cows onto their backs. All over the world, anybody who happened to be riding a bicycle at that moment instantly fell off like that. The Space Bat Angel Dragon landed so ponderously because he was exhausted, and now he was a very changed monster. The fires of the sun had worked on him in a way that was awful to see. His wings were only rags of what they had been. His skin was crisp, and all his fatness had been changed by the fires of the sun into precious stones, jewels, emeralds, rubies, turquoises, and substances that had never been found on earth. And when he landed with such a jolt, these loads of precious gems burst through the holes scorched in his skin and scattered down onto the Australian desert beneath. But the Iron Man could not allow himself to pity the Space Bat Angel Dragon. He signalled to the engineers. "Round 3, he shouted, and the engineers began to pour in the oil. But what was this? An enormous woofing sound, a booming, wheezing, sneezing sound. The Space Bat Angel Dragon was weeping. If the Iron Man got onto his furnace again, it would mean that he, the monster, would have to take another roasting in the sun, and he could not stand another. "Enough! Enough! Enough!" he roared through his tears. "No, no," replied the Iron Man. "I feel like going on. We've only had 2 each." "It's enough!" cried the dragon. "It's too much! I can't stand another! The fires of the sun are too terrible for me! I submit!" "Then I've won!" shouted the Iron Man, "because I'm quite ready to roast myself red hot again. If you daren't, then I've won." "You've won! Yes, you've won! And I am your slave!" cried the Space Bat Angel Dragon. "I'll do anything you like, but not the sun again." And he plunged his chin in the Pacific to cool it. "Very well," said the Iron Man. "From now on, you are the slave of the earth." Gotta go again. Sorry.